You. You're muted. That's okay. Hi, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I think there's just one here that doesn't know me. My name's Greg Cohen. Hi, thanks for coming to my roundtable. I am super excited tonight because I have these two gentlemen with me who have been friends for years. I will mention how many years for each. I did the math earlier. But they're both documentarians, and it's a subject that I am a fan of, but I know nothing about. So I am really excited to be talking to both of them. So let me introduce them. First off, also, if you are new to the roundtable, what I really love you to do is throw me your questions in the chat box. It tends to be a lot cleaner if we don't have everyone talking over each other. And so if you have a question, and I encourage those questions, send me a chat. I will pass it on. If it's too confusing for me to pass on, I will certainly ask you to ask it yourself. So introducing these people. I'll start with the newbie, I guess. Mr. Michael Piscatelli, who I met, compared to Chris, I met him 25 years ago, almost exact. Few Good Men opened August of 1995.
Oh my God.
And Michael auditioned for that show. I was directing it. I cast him in it, this young boy. And actually, Jay Fraley was the lead in that show. So that was when the two of them met as well. Since then, he has moved on from acting to producing and making films. When he was just producing for the stage, I don't know. I worked for him a few times, which was a lot of fun. And I'm just thrilled. I'm thrilled with the trajectory of your career and that we're still friends. And speaking of still friends, are you ready, Michael? 44 years ago, I met this gentleman, Chris Schuler.
When I was five.
He was slightly older than me then, and strangely enough, he's a great deal younger than me now, and I don't know how that worked. But we met in college. He's a fraternity brother of mine. We were both thespians at that point, and he also moved on to the film world. And he sent me his bio because I met him 44 years ago. I think I spoke to Chris 40 years ago. And then we just sort of went our separate ways. Chris lives in Albuquerque, and so we don't cross paths often. We've, communicated here and there over the years, but not much. And so it's really exciting to see him back here. I do want to let people know his bio basically says, first of all, I'll start with the biggie. Award-winning producer, director, Chris Schuler, created over 100 television programs over the past 25 years. And his projects have filmed worldwide and have raised public awareness and impacted public policy nationally and internationally. And he mentions a bunch of really famous people he's worked with. I'll let him boast about that. But he's also going to be teaching a 2-day workshop, right, Chris, on documentary filmmaking coming up in September. And I'll let him plug that a little later. But I did want to welcome both of you. It is really exciting to see both of you here.
Great to be here.
Great fun.
I'm a big fan. So to start, as you are all thinking of your wonderful questions for these people, I just want to give you a little taste of what they've got going. So I'm going to share a couple of little film clips here. The first one is one of Chris's projects. Do you want to introduce this?
Sure. We do only social issue stuff, and we create them for specific target audiences, usually teenagers and parents. And we also design them so we can break them out into small pieces and put them into curriculum guides and use them in schools. But they're also full-length documentaries. So we cover all the happy stuff, from alcohol and opioids and suicide and domestic violence, but we also do bullying. So this was a piece we did probably 5 years ago called Bystanders, which was all about bullying. And so this is the open sequence to that, I think, is what he's going to show.
I had people tell me to go kill myself and that I was a freak. I had people tell me that I didn't belong anywhere. They would throw food at me. They'd just throw things at me. I don't remember a time where I haven't been bullied since I was in elementary school all the way up through high school. This is my senior year. A lot of it was because I moved around a lot, so I was the new kid. But then a lot of it was also because I like to read. So I think they target the weak kids, or who they perceive to be weak.
Bullying has become the catch-all phrase for any kind of mean thing or nasty thing that anybody does. There's really 3 key factors in bullying. The first is power and control, who has the most power, because it's always an imbalance of power. The second is that there's repeated over time. And the other piece is that there has to be intent to harm.
What is bullying?
Don't use the word bully.
Use someone acting aggressively.
Bullying is a behavior.
Someone acting aggressively.
The aggressor.
Targeting one person several times.
More than one time.
On purpose. Physically or verbally hurting somebody on purpose.
I just think people should really, really examine themselves before they start to pick on other people. Take a look at what your reasoning is behind this. I mean, there really is no excuse. It doesn't matter what's going on at home for you, the bully. It doesn't matter that you've been through something. It's not okay to go out there and victimize other people because you're hurt in some way. It's not okay. It will never be okay to bully someone.
It can hurt.
Bullying can hurt.
Hurt. Badly.
Badly.
Happy stuff.
Yeah. Just really powerful. So thank you for letting me share that, Chris.
Sure.
And now, for a little bit more uplifting,
Good.
hopefully, Michael's trailer for his film, Path of the Daff, which I got to see in its entirety and loved. So here we go. Hold on. This is the fun part. I will find it while I'm looking for it. This is the flyer for Chris's workshop coming up. Sorry for the barking.
You muted yourself, Greg.
There we go.
Hello, everyone. You notice the daffodils are in bloom now, and that is because it's time for the Boston Marathon, the longest running marathon in the world.
Boston has a history that dates to 1897. That means something to everyone who comes here.
Let's get down to Boston. Apparently there's been an explosion at the Boston Marathon.
Twin explosions shatter a celebration, turning a day of joy into a nightmare.
A second explosion goes off, and then another one. Boom!
Cheering stopped. Time stopped. We knew something wasn't right.
I instantly started to cry.
It actually is hard to speak about, but tragedies also produce strength, and that's what Boston Strong is.
The Boston Marathon Daffodil Project is a hope-inspiring, beautifying project that came out of the devastation of the Boston Marathon bombings. Daffodils do bring a smile to most people's faces. People have a special place for flowers in their life. Weddings, birthdays, anniversaries, you name it, a flower can make it there.
This is typical daffodil we send to the US.
What we are going to do is we follow one daffodil bulb from the sandy soil here in Holland across the ocean to the Boston Marathon.
I'm in charge of production and sales, getting the product out to the customers on time and the right quality. It's a lot of work picking up all these daffodils, 2,500 pots.
Time to mark the pot that's gonna hold the bulb that we have followed from Amsterdam.
Most people think plants just appear. You know, there's a lot that really goes behind it. It is an exact science.
This past year, we grew 20,000 bulbs in 5,000 pots.
There's our mark, there's our daff. We're gonna follow that one easily now as it travels into the Boston Marathon.
I did hear someone say, those flowers are so pretty. And I thought, but do you know what they represent?
It's a subliminal message that we care, that there's something beautiful to look forward to, and spring will come again.
Yay! Fabulous.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks,
That's really cool. That is cool. I want to see it now.
Me too.
So let's just start with the beginning. How do you get an idea for a documentary? What is the starting point?
Chris, go for it.
Well, you know, that's the perfect start. When I teach my class for a full semester, we spend the first 3 weeks trying to figure out how you decide what you're going to do. And there's all kinds of filters within that. For my company, if somebody wants to do this for a living, for my company, I have between 10 and 15 projects that are in development at any given time. Because within that framework, probably 5 of them I think are going to make financially, and usually 3 of them seem like they're going to make financially a couple years in, and then 1 of them makes financially. So we have to start out with that many to get down to the one that we actually can afford to do. So I have different qualifiers. One of them is I have to be incredibly passionate about the topic. If I'm not passionate about the topic, and I'm sure, Michael, you're the same, because they're going to be, as I tell my students all the time, there's going to be, once you've got the money even, there's going to be 20 roadblocks within a year and a half that you're going to say, it's over, I can't do this. And you've got to have the passion to figure out how to get through that to make it happen, right?
Very much.
Is that what you find?
Yeah, definitely. The passion on something like this. A little bit of history on me. I produce television. So I'm also one of those ones that they call a producer shooter, which is a person who not only films everything, but runs their own audio and does PM work, LP work, just everything. So the quick backstory on Path of the Daff was that I was sitting at home watching TV one day, and my brother gave me a phone call because he had just left a dinner party, because he was so excited about all this press that he was getting for those daffodils that he is growing for the Boston Marathon itself. So, you know, at first I'm like, you're insane. Like, you're insane. Like, can I do it? Sure, I can do it. Do I want to do it? That's the question. You know, as my brother, yes, of course I want to do it. As a story, you're insane still. Tell me more. So, you know, the more I looked into it, and really when he said, I said, what's the title? What do you think the title is going to be? He said, Path of the Daff. I went, oh, that's a good title. I see something in that. So then I started buying these books on daffodils, and I'm getting away from television at the time and looking into, you know, different things, daffodils, which is completely outside of my realm. And I go, holy crap, you can parallel the lives of these flowers with the lives of human beings. So why would we not follow the life of one daffodil, which has the resiliency that humans have, that has the drive that humans have, that has the bite that humans have, and watch it fulfill its purpose like we'd like to see every human do. So when it comes to passion, Chris, 100%. Because of my brother, yes. Because of For My City, 100%. But when I saw that there was actually a story that I felt passionate about to tell, that's what carried me through 4 years and a lot of pain of actually getting it done. So I agree with you.
Good for you. And yet, the other thing it's wonderful about your piece, I think, is there's a visual theme. There's a visual theme, there's a storyline, there's all the stuff that you have to have, as you know, to tell a good story, which, you know, if you don't have that, you don't have a show, you know. Is it possible to do it? Yeah. What do you need to get it done? Exactly what you did. And it looks like it's spectacular.
Thank you. But it's the same thing as yours, though, you know, because it comes down to those characters. Because I can't base everything around a bulb. It's a flower bulb. It doesn't react to anything. So I had to tell the story of the flower bulb through the people that are experiencing it and helping along its journey.
Yes.
Like yours as well. You know, you said on that in the trailer you just had, you set upon this young woman whose face is ripping with emotion and story. And you're instantly engaged, at least I was. So we're in the same boat, that you find that character to be able to tell the story, and then you wrap things around that and follow it through with the passion.
No, that's exactly right. And then the issue becomes as well, as background to that bullying show, we wanted to do something on bullying. There were a couple different stories that we could have followed. We weren't sure exactly what stories we were going to follow. And we ended up doing, in the first shoot, a series of interviews with kids at a school, just bringing them in, sitting them in front of the green screen. We do a series of think tanks leading up to before we ever shoot. We spent about 1.5 years, 2 years researching and figuring.
You're jumping ahead to my next question, which
yeah. So
that was it. Is once you come up with the concept of what the topic,
right?
What's the first step?
So for me, I do these, well, you do research gathering. As Michael said, he spent all this time reading about daffodils. So we do online research, we do all that sort of stuff. But then the other thing that I found very useful is we do a series of what I call think tanks. We invite people in, they're experts, they're target audience people, they are secondary target audience people, they are potential funders who would have interest. We bring in all these people in a series of meetings over 6 months' time. And we say, listen, you're the producers. Give us some feedback. What should we do? How should we do it? Who should we talk to? What should it look like? How should we, and within these frameworks, after 6 months of meetings, we have all this research material, and we start going through it, and themes start manifesting themselves, and people that we need to interview start manifesting themselves. And it becomes a really interesting puzzle. We do that all before, because you never have enough money. You never have enough money to do documentaries, for God's sake. No. So you have to really do the pre-production so that the production time gets really crunched down as far as you can make it, so that you really don't spend all that time. And now if you're working for PBS, and they can go out and they can shoot whenever they want, and they can shoot over a year's time, and they have crews and they do all that stuff, that's a different story. For an independent producer, as I'm sure Michael is, you shoot and do all those things. And yeah, I do the mopping, and I do we do all that stuff. You have really small crews, but you do all this pre-work so that you're ready to go when you're ready to take the camera out of the box. I know exactly what I'm doing. I use up those 10-hour shoot days. We shoot like crazy for those 10-hour shoot days. And we put it together. My shows, my half-hour shows, the bullying show, we shot in 4.5 days. Total.
Wow.
Total. And if you saw the whole show, you'd go, holy crap, you spent 3 months shooting that. But because we make use of the locations, we multi-use locations, we multi-use experts, we bring people in, we crunch the time down in production to make this happen. The interesting thing about that girl that you chose, one of the things we did early in the first day of production, we lined up these kids and we sat them down and we asked them questions. You know, have you ever been bullied? All the general stuff. And then I had them say a few things directly to the camera. And this girl came up out of nowhere at the end of the day, and said, can anybody do this? And I said, well, do we have a release from your parents? Because we had spent 2 months working with the school to get the releases from the parents to do the thing. And she said, no. And I said, well, I'm sorry, sweetie, we can't unless your parents. She goes, I'm 18. Okay. Yeah, you can sign for yourself. She said, I'd really like to talk. And you could see this passion in her face. And so she signed, she sat down, and you could have heard a pin drop for 30 minutes. She just went telling the story of her life. And she became then the lead story and thread throughout the documentary was her. Which was really important. With our opioid thing, we did all sorts of pre-interviews before we took the camera out with families, kids who were addicted, expert, all that stuff, so that we honed down to tell 3 particular stories. Same thing with the homeless thing. But it gets really fascinating when you have to try to figure out what are the visuals and what's going to happen visually. One other quick story, and I'm sure Michael can riff off this. When you did the daffodil thing, I did a story on global warming. And the more research we did, the more we found one of the answers is carbon sequestration in the first millimeter of topsoil. So it's a documentary about dirt. Well, what can you do for an hour on dirt? And that became the struggle and the challenge and the fascinating thread throughout the piece. And so we did dirt in Zimbabwe, and we did dirt in Australia, and we did dirt in everywhere all around the world, essentially. And we did it with kids, and we had the kids talk about their lives in their group and how the dirt and them were related. It turned into this really fascinating thing, but it was not easy to develop that particular piece. So where is the daffodil thing now? Is it?
Hold on for a minute. We'll get to that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
My God, Chris. Because there's one question from Daryl that I wanted to bring up to you, which was, since you work with kids a lot, and since there's so much of the deeply emotional stuff that you're dealing with them, do you work with a psychological counselor when you're working with them? What's the backup there?
Yeah, absolutely. We've done things on date violence where kids were almost killed in dating relationships, domestic violence, all kinds of opioid addiction, all this stuff. One of the things we always do, and this is in the pre-production, we have experts in that area. Sometimes they're on camera, sometimes they're not. They're just helping us figure out the best way to deal with this. And we spend a great deal of time letting these young people and their parents and their grandparents know what we're doing, how we're doing it, what we're going to be discussing. And, there's different kinds of producers. I tend to err on the side of safety for the kids, and I tell them and their parents and their grandparents, anybody else, listen, if you do this, you have to assume that everyone you ever knew, everyone you ever know now, and everyone you will ever know for the rest of your life is going to see this. So whatever you say, whatever you do, know that that's going to be out there forever and ever. And if you have any issues with that at all, let's not do it. I mean, it's not worth it. So we spend a lot of time with that because, I mean, some people use the shadow thing and the hands thing and you can't tell who it is and you change the voice. I don't know that we have ever done that because to me, that's sort of I mean, it lessens the impact. That girl, because she was so good, because she was so emotional with the whole thing, and we've stayed in touch. We did the opioid thing we did called No Exceptions. We followed 5 kids. One of them eventually died. One of them is still struggling to this day, and it's been 6 years. 3 of them, surprisingly, have done really well, which is very rare for that. I mean, those numbers are really skewed. But you know, all those kids had decided, okay, I want to do this for other people, and you know, I really want to help. So the long answer is yes, we make dead certain that it's not going to be tough for these kids. And when we set up the interviews, that's a very big part, you know, of, you know, how many people are on the set and what they do and what they don't do, and you know, all those things. It gets really tricky. I'm sure, Michael, when you did your interviews for that, you had people who were seriously affected.
Yeah. On that note, you know, again, coming from TV, I've interviewed a number of people who are from bad situations, who've had bad things happen. And it's like you say, Chris, you've really got to, I don't think you can bully your way through those things. No pun intended. I don't think you can. And I know that some people have as a producer. And I also think that you also have to be able to go there as a producer to elicit the emotion. And then some producers aren't able to. They walk up to that line and then they come back.
Yep.
So I had already been primed for that walking into Path of the Daff, because this was, to give a little more context, you know, this was about the people who experience PTSD by seeing a car accident, but not being in it. You know, maybe they saw an arm hanging out of the body, out of a car, and the arm is not moving, type of thing. It affects more people in the world than being directly affected than, let's say, a bomb explosion, losing a leg. So that's where I kind of went with this one, which was unlike HBO, which was unlike CNN, which was unlike Mark Wahlberg with his, and everybody who's ever done a documentary about this. So I did know with that I needed different perspectives. One being my brother, who, you know, just admitted to me the other day that he suffers from PTSD. I was like, yeah, I know. Why the hell do you think I did this, dude? But then I got, you know, the people who were there. Well, my brother was there. But then I got the people who, like J.P. Norton, who lost a leg. His brother lost a leg as well. His mother, Liz, is in our documentary. And she told me how she just watched the explosion, because they were part of the second explosion, over and over and over again. And she couldn't tell me how many times she watched her son's legs fly up in the air and fly down. I needed that. You know, I can't build a story around just people who are just affected, because I was in Santa Monica where I was when I heard about the bomb. I can't do it with people who just witnessed it. I had to do it with people who were affected by it to get their opinion and all of this. So that's where they were in there. And, you know, JP didn't like talking about it. He definitely did not. And JP did not want he still does not want his life legacy to be about the Boston Marathon bombing. Meanwhile, you know, hopefully he uses it still and harnesses it to do good, like I think he did with us. But there was another person named Shane O'Hara, who was the other perspective, and he was one of the heroes of the day, who was just a regular person. He was the manager at Marathon Sports. So when somebody got me in touch with him, they said, don't ask him about that day. I said, you don't know what I do for a living then. I can't approach this person and not ask him about his day when he was there. He was all over the news, all of that stuff as well. So he did not lose a limb like JP did. And he was not indirectly affected like my brother, but he was right in the middle, where it was right in front of his store that the first bomb went off. And he was ripping off shirts from the rack to tie people up. So you have to be able to approach that sensitivity in a sensitive way. Let them, the subject, go to it. You can push them, you can prod them, and it's like an elastic band, at least I see it. And hopefully you get the goods, meaning that story, in the emotional way, because you know that's an instant lock to anyone when you're telling the story.
So let me get this clear, because I'm still trying to get the I guess the timeline of production down. You come up with a concept, do you storyboard to begin with, or do you just get interviews first and then put a film together? Does that tell you which way to go with this?
This is the biggest difference between narrative and documentaries. In the production timeline, there's all the research and the pre-production. There's the development, which you're trying to figure out your storylines and what sort of the overall theme is going to be and how you're going to follow it and where you're going to begin and end and all those things. Then you go out and do the interviews. Then you do the production. Then you shoot all the B-roll and you do all the interviews and you do all that stuff. Then you transcribe all that stuff. And with a narrative, you've got the script before you shoot. With a documentary, you do the script after you shoot, because I don't know what you're going to say, Greg, when I interview you about Universe of the Pacific and the band frolic of 1976.
I deny being in it.
And what happened in that moment. I don't know what you're going to say. I have no idea what you're going to remember, how you're going to respond, what you're going to do. Maybe you're going to cry, fabulous, or whatever. But then you take those things, and I lay out all my interviews and all the transcriptions, and I look at my sort of what my initial idea of the outline was. Sometimes that shifts, sometimes that changes. And then we put the puzzle together in the writing, and then we do the post-production on that. What's really fun to me is we did a piece on, I don't know if you all know, if you're into racing at all, the Unser family, they won 5 Indianapolis 500s. Al Jr. won, his dad won, his uncle won. Al Jr.'s daughter, Cody, was paralyzed at the age of 12 from the waist down. And she and her mom approached me about doing a documentary about paralysis. Well, there's been a lot of documentaries about this. The short part of this story is we did the documentary. There's all kinds of permutations of that story. But we didn't know how the thing was going to end. Was she going to walk again, or was she not going to walk again? Was she going to go into Hopkins, and when they did the final examination, was she going to be able to have the surgery or not have the surgery? So we shot the whole thing knowing how the ending was going to turn out. And that's where it gets really interesting and fascinating to me, is how do you tell these stories? Because they are stories, and they're written in the regular, I do it sort of in the same screenplay storyline with plot point 1, plot point 2, ABC storyline, all the stuff. But with documentaries, it's more intricate, and it's like a chess match because you don't know where that's going to go. So you do the research, the pre-production, the research, the fundraising, and all that kind of crap. Then really shorten up, for me, the production time is very short, and then the writing, and then the post-production, and then the distribution after that. And in my formats, we don't do any back end. I mean, I get the money up front, and that pays for the production, pays me, pays all the stuff. And then we practically give away the documentaries to all the school districts and whoever we're trying to approach. Now that may be different for you, Michael. What is your financial?
He has none.
It's all gone because of a documentary I did. With that, I'll quickly touch upon how I started with this as far as outlining goes. But I had two friends, really good friends, approach me with documentaries. The first one was the first one of my friends. It's on Netflix now, by the way, because they did get it finished. And I started it out for like the first month as far as trying to get funding goes and filming. But it is the first human to roll himself across the country in a standard wheelchair. And he did it. And how do you not do that? Well, you don't do it because you're not going to get money for a documentary. You're not going to get paid. And while it's on Netflix, it's called Roll With Me. If anyone wants to see it, it's called Roll, R-O-L-L, With Me on Netflix. It's phenomenal. I love it. And it was inspiration for me to do Path of the Daft as well. So again, I did not do that one. I did not do another one on a children's school out, I think, New Hampshire or something, where they were just funneling these kids in there for money and then beating them and raping them and just betting on them. Horrible stuff, which we gravitate to as storytellers, but you know that you cannot, I can't do it. Funding. So when Path of the Daft came along, I said, Matt, I'm going to have to give up my paid career to help you do this. Do you understand that you need to help me. He said, yes. Okay. With that, I still took a few jobs, obviously, and I saved up money, and I had, from CBS, I got staying at hotels, and I've got all of these points from National Geographic. I've got airline miles. So I've got everything saved up, and I used everything, by the way, everything. And to start out, Greg, back to your question is, I did all the studying. Chris, like you said, I did all the studying on a daffodil. How can we parallel this with human existence? Who do we have to work with already? And then I wrote an outline. I wrote an outline of where I thought it could go, where I hoped it would go, because it's a documentary. And then you let it out there and you start doing it. Everything that we did try to follow the outline, but you've got to have a wherewithal when doing a documentary. I feel, Chris, you may or may not agree, but you do have to dodge and weave when you're out there in the fields. That you do interview, the first thing you do is you interview these people, because you do get a sense of who they are. Hopefully they're good. In my position, I wasn't able to pre-interview. It was just, let's set this up, let's go, let's pray to God you're good. If not, I'm cutting you, and I'll find a way around you in the story. Luckily, I found some wonderful people. We all found wonderful people. But with that said, they also illuminate something that you want to follow. Oh, you do this? Oh, great. Well, let me write that down. And is it a good visual? Can we do things? Can we physically, because it's not a radio show, can we physically document you doing these things? Is there something behind it where you have a time pressure? Because everything comes down to time and money. I'm not sure in yours, but time and money, at least in the television world, what is it behind the scenes, but in front of the scenes as well? Am I going to get a good deal on this? And can we see some money exchange hands? And I'm talking about in front of the camera lens. Obviously the same behind the camera lens. Is there money? Is there money to pay for this and do this? But my brother and his business partner shelled out money for certain things. I shelled out everything else, which is wonderful. And we found those storylines to be able to hook them into each other. And Chris, there was a funny thing that you said about knowing the ending. About Shane O'Hara, that marathon sports manager. I didn't quite know how I was going to end this. I had my ideas and everything changed. Because as far as the people who were directly affected, I was offered up the same exact people who you've seen on NBC, CNN, And I was like, this is not that story. Why would I do a story that everyone's heard before? So I interviewed Shane, and I'm standing there and just, trying to get through what I think I'm going to film, and he's doing it wonderfully. And then when he describes his day, that taboo place where I was told not to go, he is ripping with emotion. And there's one thing he says, and he says, well, he's looking at his watch and going, his tears. That's how Marathon Monday is for me right now. And I went, that's my ending. I said, this is my ending. He just gave me in that one thing, my entire ending. And I wrapped everything around that. To be honest with you, my entire ending is my first draft. And I had a ball making it because it was just so wonderfully emotional based on what Shane said and did that he gave me the ending. So like you say, Chris, I agree wholeheartedly that it is by interviewing these people, you find out where your story is. You can map things out from there as far as a documentary goes.
I believe you just answered Daryl's question, but I'm going to ask it again anyway, just to make sure, because he says the difference between narrative versus documentary notwithstanding, in a documentary, do you still have a thematic objective? Or again, does the story totally dictate itself to you?
I'm probably different than yours to some extent. Most of my documentaries have a purpose. We want to, with the Cody documentary, this girl who had paralysis, the subversive part was we wanted to get past the stem cell research bill that was on the floor then. That was sort of the year down the road. That's kind of where we were going. So we designed our project for a target audience. In that particular case, the target audience were certain congressional members in Washington, D.C., which made a very specific target audience for us. We decided we're going to grab them by the heart in a particular way. And so I designed my show around where I was going with that. Glenn Close did the narration because she was, well, there's all kinds of reasons that we had that. But we design ours for a specific purpose. The bullying thing is designed, it was designed actually to be broken into segments and used with a curriculum guide and put into schools to stop bullying. And it was designed to be used in elementary, mid schools, and high schools. Different segments of it were designed in that manner. And then we went out, I mean, in terms of funding, the beauty is then we went out looking for pieces of funding that would match that. And then we pool all that funding together to do a half-hour project that's going to be televised. And some people want to give money because they want their names on that. Some people want to give money because they want to pay for a specific piece. Some people want to give money because they believe altruistically that it's a bad thing, or they were bullied as a kid, or they want to whatever. So then we stack that money up and put it together in a piece. But back to the original thing, almost all my projects have a goal in mind. We have a point of view, and I'm very clear with that. It's not. I don't make it an editorial. We tell the truth. We find the truth and we tell the truth. But there's a point to it. There's certainly a point and goal to the things that I'm doing. It's not just to have people look and feel sad. It's, well, with the daffodil thing, I got to believe the point is to raise funds or to bring people together or to whatever, right?
It's interesting because I got an interesting question. We did some film festival in Texas, and I was up on a panel, and people asked me, asked everybody, you know, did you have a specific target audience in mind? And I was the only one who said, I do. And
good for you.
Well,
I think you have to. I think you have to.
I think you've got to have an idea, you know, of it. And, you know, it's with horror films, you're getting a horror audience. You know, you're getting something different. With a documentary, with this one, my target audience was A, Boston. B, anyone who's a marathon runner. C, anyone who's had post-traumatic stress. And D, my big one, flower growers. Because there's a ton of them out there all around the world. So if I expect to make at least $1 off of every single person who loves flowers, I'll take it, because I'm not going to make money any other way. So I made this as a PBS type of thing. Mm-hmm. So when I got, you know, my quick thing was after, you know, filming, and I would always bounce things off of people because, again, I had no money, so couldn't afford to bring on cast, a crew or anything like that. So I would ask friends, I would bounce it off of them. And it was always interesting to hear the ideas from certain different sects of people, SECTS of people, which is, you know, in going, well, I'm not going that way, but I hear your note. Oh, I would rather go this way. So I'm going to take that note. And that's why my end goal was like a PBS type of thing. And I think it hit its mark in that respect, where it's educational, it's fun, it's moving. Y'all may think it sucks, I don't know, but I think it points in that direction at least.
It does.
You know? But that's the response I wanted to get with a target audience as well. It doesn't need to be mass consumed, you know, by slashing somebody and slashing a daffodil at the same time, shock value. It was educational, fun, and hoping somebody else knows that they can relate to this and can also heal in life.
Okay, here's a question for both of you. Purely technical. Through all stuff both of you sent me, I was noticing that there's, and having watched your film in total, Michael, I noticed the incredibly effective use of editing. And for a good deal of it, and I don't know if this is mostly because Chris, you're dealing with a young audience. There's a lot of quick cuts, lot of camera motion. And on the other hand, probably the one scene that stands out as, wow, this just doesn't feel like a documentary to me in Michael's film, was the interview with the flower grower where he gets the telephone call. And that, I don't know, do you know exactly how long the pause was?
I kind of forget, but it's something like 40 seconds around there.
it was forever. I mean, the guy gets up and gets his phone call, and Michael just keeps the camera on the empty chair with the guy in the background talking on the phone. And it really stood out to me because it was so different, and really so different from the rest of your film, that it gave me a chance to just kind of sit and enjoy the moment. And I was wondering how much thought goes into where does a quick cut come in? Where does the pacing of a film come in? How important is it as opposed to what the people are saying?
Chris, can I take that first, buddy, to hit that? You know, Peter getting up and running to the phone was very, very close to the beginning. And I had to keep that in for a couple of reasons. One, because it's a documentary and it's different from the television I make, and you need to understand that. You know, you're not watching a quick cut 1 hour show on CBS, which is actually only 42 minutes, and I'm going to try to keep you over the break with this edit point. I wanted you to be immersed in a world, which is, to get too technical, I use certain lenses to make the world bigger. If you remember that, whatchamacallit, if I can, I wonder if I can show you what we're talking about here. Well, forget it. I'll get it to it in a second. But with that said, you know, I'm interviewing this guy whom I know is going to have the final line in the end of the documentary as well, sum up absolutely everything that our documentary is about. And if I don't make you trust this guy now, you're not going to trust him at the end when he wraps everything up. So when he's telling me all this stuff, and the phone rings, which is this big electric in this warehouse, you know, this wonderful, sweet old man gets up and goes, well, I don't think I should get it. Maybe I should get it. Should I get it? You know, they're going to hang up by the time I get there. So he gets up and he runs. He just takes off. I'm not saying a thing. He picks up the phone, hello, and they immediately hang up. And he talks to me. He breaks the fourth wall. Michael, I told you. Do you see? And he walks back in, sits in that spot, and drops some life wisdom that I immediately went, cut, go to another scene. That encapsulates the reality that I want and the believability that I wanted all my characters to have, but him in particular, knowing that he was going to give the other truth bomb at the end. So I needed to keep that reality. So I do believe that editing and pacing is just part of the magic to illuminate a scene, to illuminate a character, and to let people know where you're going with everything. Chris?
Yeah, no, I think what we try to do in pre-production, depending on the topic, and with an eye on who we're talking, we design the visual and oral themes prior to shooting, so that we know for the Cody show, it's about paralysis. Well, we had many discussions and talks about how do we shoot this? What's the best way to shoot it? Well, we're going to shoot all the interviews up. You never shoot up. You never shoot up because you see the ceiling and it looks ugly and it's ridiculous, right? Why would we shoot up? Because that's how she sees the world, right? She's in a chair. She sees everything that way. We're going to shoot everything from her point of view, even when she's not there. We're gonna do all the graphics. I talked to my art director a tremendous amount about this. What do we do with the graphics? What are we gonna do? We're gonna make them all motion graphics. They're gonna be motion because she can't move. We're gonna do a lot of stuff from the wheelchair. We're gonna do a lot of things with a steady cam moving because of that movement. The whole visual theme was movement because she can't. In every show, we try to determine what the visual and oral themes are going to be before we shoot, so that when we get out of the set, number one, we know what kind of equipment we need, because we're not going to take a lot. We're just going to take what we need. Two, we're going to know how we're going to shoot it. Are we going to shoot it with handheld? Are we going to shoot it with Steadicam? Are we going to shoot it with a dolly or a jib or a hoovis or a doofus or whatever it's going to be? because it's going to look a certain way and it's going to feel a certain way. So what do we want the feeling to be? And that's dependent on the target audience and how we want it to look. So we make those decisions, at least in my standpoint, from pre-production. And then we also know what the editing is going to look like afterwards. I don't know exactly. I don't know for sure, because who knows what we got. But if we're going to do, how are the transitions going to look? At the end of every interview, how is it going to cut directly? Is it going to dissolve? Is it going to swish pan in and out of something? Is it going to, and we make those decisions before we take the camera out of the box. So when I do your interview, Greg, on this, and I know that at the end of every question, I tell the camera guy, listen, when they're coming to the end of their answer and you see me start to take a breath, swish pan off of them. Just swish pan off of them. Because I don't know what we're going to use. I'm going to interview them for a half hour, an hour. I don't know which one things are going to work. Every time they end their phrase, come off of them. And every time I ask a question, just as they're taking their in-breath, come on to them. We did that for the domestic violence show. So that was a constant slap of the visual. So we make all those decisions before we ever shoot, so that it makes the shoot go a lot easier. And I can explain to the crew, here's exactly what we're going to look like. Here's how it's going to go. Here's how we're going to look. And then we get in there and things change and stuff happens. But at least I know where I'm going within the overall framework. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Making if someone's in a wheelchair and you being from that level and looking up, it's allowing someone, us, the audience, to experience someone else's world. I can apply everything to theater because I come from theater, Greg, and these are technically theater stuff. So we all look for the same stories, whether it's in theater, whether it's writing, or whether it's documentaries or television, doesn't matter, reality TV. We all look for those same emotional stories. What film gives us is that alternate angle to be able to allow us to open up emotions for you, the audience. So if you're looking up at the world the way that this person sees it, whoo, boy, that's something that you're never going to see again.
So brings up a question that's here. In your words, what's the difference between documentary and propaganda?
Ooh, I'm going to let Michael.
Coward.
Propaganda is a point of view. Propaganda is a hardcore point of view, I believe, that you're trying to get across without getting the other side involved. So that's what I think. In good documentaries, while we'll have a point of view, we will also leave it open to other people, places, and things as well. So I think propaganda is strictly hitting you and saying, this is how it is.
And I think if you tell the truth as best you can, knowing that, like, I am a white male, I grew up in a wonderful family, I went to school at a beautiful college, I had all the privilege in the world. Knowing that, I bring people into the production process, depending on what the topic is, that are not me, that can give me these other perspectives or give the project other perspectives. I read an interesting thing today, which I thought was so true. As a reporter, which I think I'm a journalist, my job is not, if somebody says it's raining outside, my job is not to find somebody who says, no, it's not raining outside. My job is to tell the truth. Look the hell out the window and see if it's raining or not. And then tell that. I don't have to have another side if it's not true or accurate or honest. And we all
Have you ever gone into a project and it ended up coming out the other side with a different opinion?
And I will say no, and the reason is I do so much pre-production that I know when I go into it, I've already learned all the stuff about that, whatever that issue is, from every different angle that it is. And most of my stuff is not, an example is the thing we did on global warming. It was called Healing the Earth, First Millimeter, Healing the Earth. And I was really worried about this, right? It's a very controversial topic, very controversial topic.
Which is amazing.
When we did the premiere, we did the screening premiere at a PBS station here in Albuquerque, the initial premiere, 99.9% Democrats, left-leaning, watched the show, came up to me, patted me on the back. Every frickin' Republican should see this show, goddammit. They were just going nuts. Then we did a screening, a premiere in Cheyenne, Wyoming, because we had filmed up there in Dick Cheney country. 99.9% Republican audience. I was sweating. We showed the show, big screen. We had a theatrical thing. Everybody came up after me. God damn it! Every Democrat should see your show. For God's sake.
I love it.
Yes. Let me pat myself on the back because I told the truth. I just told the truth, and we had it out there, and here it is. And I think we did a real good job with it. So I think that's really crucial. And I have a huge apology to you, Greg. I have to be up at 6 a.m. tomorrow for a television interview in Savannah, Georgia, for that class that I'm teaching.
Okay.
And I've got to. I'm an hour later here than you guys are out in LA.
Right.
So I'm gonna have to jump off here. I got to do one more thing before I jump off. But I'm going to give myself a plug, Michael.
Please do. Please do. Because one of the questions here is, where can we see your work?
Yes, very good. So on the, I should go into the little chat thing. In my chat thing, I'm going to put up for everyone. Wait a minute. How do I do this?
I don't know that you can.
Yeah, I think Greg can.
No. Oh, well, you'll put it up, Greg. It's ChristopherProductions.org. We're an organism, so it's Christopher Productions with an S at the end, .org. And on that, if you're interested in documentary production, I teach when I can, thankfully, because of the coronavirus, we're not shooting right now. So I'm going to teach a 2-day class that is a big, there it is. Nice. If you go to, you can contact me directly at chris@christopherproductions.org. Go at the very bottom, christopherproductions.org there. If you go to that, there's a thing that says sign up for the documentary thing. It's going to be September 12th and 13th. The problem is it's going to be 9:30 Eastern time on both Saturday and Sunday, 9:30 to 4:30 essentially. So if you're interested in a 2-day workshop on documentary films, it's very inexpensive. We're only bringing in, and I only do this for 12 people. Because we want to do a lot of interaction, a lot of stuff. And before you come in, I send you a thing, and you come in with an idea for a project you want to work on, and we work that through during that 2 days. If you're interested in a full semester, I'm doing a full semester thing every Wednesday night starting in September. And I'll have that up on my website in the next 2 or 3 weeks. But it's every Wednesday night. It's actually about the same cost as that thing. That you just saw, but it's every Wednesday night for 13 weeks. And then it gives a little time in between to work on your project. By the end of the 13 weeks, you have a whole production book that you've put together that has your budgeting, your treatments, your sponsor packages, some outlines, all sorts of stuff, and you're ready to go with your show. So love to have you all there. Michael, what a pleasure and honor it is to meet you. I'm going to look up your stuff. Can't wait to see the daffodil piece. That's great. And it's
before you go, you should hear this. Michael, where can people see Path of the Daff?
So, as I've never been able to answer you before, Greg, what's going on is that we're trying to set ourselves up for an Emmy in the regional area. So that means I cannot release it all over the place or on the internet and all that stuff. So while we're going through Alexandra Street for educational distribution, come January 1st, we will be on iTunes for rental as well as to purchase. But until then, I'm only going to play it regionally in Massachusetts and Rhode Island because we want to set it up for making some money back, at least for me in my career, because the thing's not going to make money.
I just finished judging Lone Star region, Mid-Valley region in Ohio and that area. Southern region. I'm on the Board of Governors for the Rocky Mountain region.
Chris, can you take New England region, buddy? Jump over there.
Now that I know you, I'd have to recuse myself. Damn it!
Stop recording this right now.
All right. Okay. Nobody knows, but that's right. But what a pleasure to meet you. I can't wait to see
you as well, Chris. Awesome job, man.
Thank you so much for being here
through my website.
Yeah. Thank you for being here. I cannot tell you what a pleasure it is to see your face again.
Oh, to see
literally, it hasn't changed in 44 years, which is scary as hell. But I love you. Thank you, brother.
Love you too, buddy.
I'll talk to you soon. Keep in touch.
Absolutely. Nice to meet everyone. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Chris. I'm going to stay, Greg.
Yeah, we're going to stick around just a little bit longer. I wanted to just ask Ms. Case, wanted to know how you manage to, I can't find your question actually at this point, but basically how you manage to not become incredibly emotionally involved with your subjects.
Oh, I was about to say yes, incredibly emotionally involved, but then you said subjects. I'm incredibly emotionally involved with what I was doing with the bombing and the damage and everything. I cried this afternoon watching the trailer. I cried all the time. And it's really, really painful to get through. As far as not getting emotionally involved with the characters, I can give you in a big general sense because of the TV that I produce. You have to open yourself up a bit because just like acting and directing and all of that, you do have to open yourself up to the character to understand them more so. So to get these questions out, you're never going to be able to get questions out of a character who's been through something as emotional as having their leg blown off. If you're just like, what's it like? What is it? So tell me about this. Tell me about that. You can't. So maybe it's the actor in me, but I do get emotionally to a point. But I also know that as a producer, I need to keep pushing and try to get that, to try to bring it out like a director will do. Bring it out. So with the project itself, yes. With the characters, it has to be a bar. It's tough with my brother, but again, I'm crying the entire time I'm editing. It was a painful time.
I guess for lack of a better term, do you finish a project that is emotionally meaningful to you and have flashbacks to a certain extent after it's done? Do certain moments pop back to you without you thinking about them, without trying to bring them back?
Traumatic things?
Any.
It's interesting. Well, I mean, that's interesting because, I was removed from everything for the most part. But then when you're standing there, the first time I stood there when the first bomb went off, I just, it's hitting me right now. So do things come back? This is not something I can let go. My brother was involved. It's my city involved. I mean, if you ask me about the gentleman I interviewed whose best friend died in a pit in Nova Scotia as he was holding his father's head, and he's the only one to survive and the first person to ever give me an interview in 45 years, I can say I feel for him and my heart breaks for him, and I'm gentle when I interview him, but I still have to bring it out so nothing comes up later after I'm hearing his stories. But for this one, for me, yeah, in the most general sense, I can say yeah, it does. I can show you guys some photos of some stuff and talk you through some things.
I'd love to see that. Yeah, absolutely. While you're doing that, can you just let us know?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you pretty much have your hands on everything when you're producing something. Do you have a crew? What size crew? How do you gather your crew?
Okay. All right. First, let me just say this. This is Liz Norton. Liz did have her two sons were the ones where they lost their legs in the second bombing. JP was the first one removed from the scene, and he was clinically dead. He showed me his x-rays of just the pellets and the springs that are still in his face and his body. It's messed up. So this is a very powerful person for what she's been through and the whole family has and all of that. So I'll rest on that for a second. So as far as crew specifically for this, I didn't have it. I didn't, as much as I tried to, because we didn't have the money. That's why I knew I could do it, because I had to do everything myself, and I've been paid by television networks to be able to do it myself. You cannot say no. You cannot put the camera down. You cannot stop filming. If you're sick, you go to work. If you're throwing up, you're going to work. You're not calling in sick doing what I do. So I knew that I could do something like this, which is everything. Now I called on friends. I called on friends to help. When I first did the outline, I put the feelers out to people. What do you guys think? What are your thoughts? I think we had a 30-day shoot in total. One of those days I was not there. And then when it came down to the marathon itself, I could not be in 3 places at the same time. So I had hired, they did it for free, 2 friends. You pay them in whiskey and a free beach house visit and plane ride. You know what I mean? So they did it, and they helped me out with that. I needed a poster, so I called up Jay. Jay's in retirement. Jay helps me out with his poster as well, and takes such a stupid discount on doing his stuff that, I found other people to do the same thing, and that's how I got it done.
A really good poster, Jay.
Jay, I actually met the Pulitzer Prize winner who took that photo as well. She came to one of the screenings out in Massachusetts. Such a wonderful person, and she loved it too. She loved the poster. I was like, yeah, it's a little bit in the back. We can't completely see yours. She's like, I love the fucking poster. I was like, yes. Excuse my language. So when it comes to getting it done for the documentary, that's how I got it done. When it comes to TV, obviously I have the crews, for bigger things, give me $18 million. We've got a whole bunch of people. If it's something like Wicked Tuna, you're a producer shooter doing everything. So
cool.
That's
Do you have
it.
any other pictures?
Yeah, so I can show you things if anyone's curious. This is my rig. You're looking at it from top down, just so you know. I used a Canon 5D, which is just a regular camera. I mean, Jay, you know about that stuff. Because I knew how I looked, and I knew what we had to do, which was carry this on my shoulder at a place where a bomb went off, set off by a guy who looks like me. So we couldn't have a big camera. This is what you have to think about when you're filming anything. So I used a Canon 5D, which is unassuming. I had an exterior microphone on top. I had a massive Zoom audio recorder with 2 for 2 people, and then underneath I had 2 more. So I was able to work the lenses and work this rig, and this is what I basically filmed the entire thing. It's still the same thing, just doesn't have the viewfinder actually. There's the viewfinder as well. I found out later that was really helpful to have. So that's what everything was filmed on. And when we brought the other 2 guys in, they had the exact same setup.
Now, you also had a couple of GoPros, right? I mean,
yeah, we had GoPros. I did not want to use them a lot of the time. I used them on this. So here's the daffodil in the window to get some time lapse. So for those who haven't seen this, yes, the daffodil obviously makes it to its final destination, which is outside, this is actually inside Marathon Sports. This was the year of them setting up the wreath, as they always do, but they were going to section it off for tribute to the bombing victims, and this is where the bombing took place. So I used the GoPros right here because, again, it offered, this is something for like a Jay. This is getting too in depth. The lens I'm using to make you feel like it's a big world is the 16 to 35. So I wanted this to ride on the 16 millimeter, which was just wide world. So what you see is a wide world, a little more than our view can take in. So I just wanted the characters to be smaller because something else was overpowering them. So that's why I chose a lens like that. So again, something, I can show you this as well. Here's the setup. This is Pete. This is the guy who runs to get the phone, by the way. We had the flag set up. You just step on scene and you just go, well, let's try to film it like this. So here's Pete's setup. Here's my setup for interviewing, and I had 2 cameras. You can see that here's that 16 millimeter. That's the one that's going to give us that really wide view like that, because again, I wanted them to seem small. Here's the other camera with a 100 millimeter lens on it right there. And I'll show you something, what it looks like in a second, but we have a close-up, we have a wide. This is the main one that we use to film all of the scenes. We have audio over here, me and my questions right here sitting on daffodil crates. What that does, so the 16 millimeter is going to give us something like this. When you walk into a scene, for me, I knew that I wanted certain things, aesthetically pleasing stuff at all times, because that's how I learned. So I wanted him to look like a painting on the wall. And when we walked into this scene, I said, holy crap, this is exactly what I've envisioned. So I did have a buddy with me this day, and he helped set this up, and I think he did a masterful job. So this is the 16 millimeter to make him look small, and, you know, to make him seem like artwork hanging there. And this is what the 100 millimeter looks like. Blowing out everything in the back and keeping him in focus. Again, just giving it a certain look that you don't necessarily see in TV or a lot. And this is all run and gun, meaning that we just see it and set up quickly. So I'm proud of these things, you know, when you can find moments like this. So when it comes to piecing together equipment, you really have to have a vision, I think, in anything. And again, that's just the setup, what it looks like.
Okay. One more question for you.
Bring it on.
What's your wish list?
As far as what to do?
What do you want to do stories about?
Oh, buddy. I would just, for the first part, I want to make money so I can make back what I lost on Path of the Daft, which was everything. So with that said, you guys are now only the second and third and fourth and fifth and sixth people to know this, but I just put a project in development at ITV Left Field. So it's a big, big TV show that we've been working on all through this pandemic with my producing partner. And it's set to blow open the paranormal worlds. It's in Stephen King country, and it's told in a way where, and this is going to get to the point of what I want to do for stories, Greg, which is it's told in a point of view where it's accessible to, it's emotionally accessible to people, where it's not just treating them as idiots, it's not treating an audience as dumb, and it's letting them know that there's hope, and that there's a reason to go on, and that there's a reason to continue with everything in life, told through a paranormal way. So this is a true crime series with a paranormal twist, and it just digs down into things, you know, closure for the living and the dead, blah, blah, blah. So what do I want to do? I want to do things that impact people and, you know, not necessarily have a rosy outlook. I don't mind dragging you through the mud, but I want you to learn something that hopefully we can all benefit from. That's what I want to do. That's what I look for in my stories.
I will let you know that Daryl has said, when you win your Emmy, can he buy a signed copy of your DVD?
Can you buy one? Yeah, please do. Please
you
do.
can probably buy one before the Emmy, Daryl. I'm sure he'll take the money.
Please. Give me my PayPal right now.
I'm gonna close this out, but you know I love you, and thank you for doing this.
I know this is against the rules. I'm speaking out, but I wanted to say that Michael's list of target audiences for his film, although prestigious and somewhat austere, I'll add to the list that there's always people like me that love documentaries, that see this kind of filmmaking as thinking outside the box, a quirky way of looking at a subject that doesn't seem like the normal path. And I think that you've got a pretty large target audience there, Michael, because there's a lot of documentary films that treat subjects in very unique ways that appeal to people like me who just like documentaries.
I agree, Jay. I mean, as one that saw the movie,
yeah, me as well. I saw it,
and was absolutely blown away by the emotional impact, and just found it purely entertaining. Honestly,
well,
it was just an entertaining film. Whether it was a documentary or a storied film, it was just a good watch.
Well, and it takes a very austere or heavy subject and treats it with some lightness, and I think that is a fresh look for the subject. So I just wanted to add that you've got an audience out there that's beyond the Bostonites.
Thank you.
And the flower growers.
and the flower growers, yes. Although those are two very noble audiences to pick, Greg. I mean,
there's
Michael,
more than you would think in the world. There's a lot.
There's a lot of people that might be interested in this film that aren't flower growers or from Boston.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you for your words, Jay. Thank you. Appreciate that. So let me just say that if anybody does want to see it, anybody who's with this, Jay, I'll send you a link. It is up on Vimeo. I'll send you guys a link, and I'll only keep that up for a week. Please know that I'll only keep that up for a week. If you want to see it, I'll send Jay the link, and he can distribute it. And then in a week, I'll have to take that down. But enjoy. I appreciate you all coming here and listening to me blabber, and that's your payoff. Hopefully you enjoy this good meaning, good feeling, family type of film.
It is. And everyone, I cannot recommend it enough. You please, Michael, send it to me. You all have my email. I will send you a link if you send it out to me. And I cannot recommend it enough. Hey, we got plenty of time being at home.
True.
What can it hurt? Thank you, Michael. You're wonderful. A very, very interesting talk tonight, both you and Chris.
Thank you. Thank you.
I really appreciate it. And hey, Michael, hit up Chris. He might have a job for you. Who knows?
Right? No doubt.
Right.
Thank you
care,
very much.
everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Greg, for doing this.
Absolutely.
Bye.